That, my friends, is a vintage Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band poster that I purchased at some point in 1985 at Texas Stadium in Dallas, where I attended my first Springsteen show on the Born in the USA tour. So it's a little bruised and battered, but there it is. So we're going to be geeking out in this episode on live Springsteen. Hey guys, welcome to Amity Tracks. This is the second video of we'll call it Springsteen Week. So I was usually when I do because the first video earlier, of course, was the rankings of the studio albums, and usually in the same video I try to talk about live stuff and comps and all that. With Springsteen, there is so much live stuff to talk about that it really kind of had to be its separate thing. So yeah, we're gonna, I don't know, get in the weeds a little bit here. Because I think a lot of longtime Springsteen fans would probably say to really know Bruce is to see him live. I mean, obviously the studio albums, there are some classics, but Springsteen's live reputation is pretty solidified. I mean, I think most of you guys are probably familiar with that. Um, I have seen him multiple times on some of these tours, but I'll just name the tours. The first time I ever saw him was that little poster I showed you in the intro, 1985. So it was on the Born in the USA tour. That show was kind of a seminal moment in my life, especially at least as a music fan. It was, I don't know, I'll maybe talk a little bit more about it when we get to that tour. But 1988, the Tunnel of Love tour. I saw him in '92, on the Lucky Town Human Touch tour. '95, Ghost of Tom Joad tour, solo acoustic when he was playing some smaller theaters. That was a really cool experience. I saw him in 2000 when he reunited after more than a decade with the E Street Band. And then 2002, so I guess that would have been on the Rising tour. Honestly, it's the last time I've seen him. I don't know. I don't know why I hadn't seen him since then. I I was going to go see him on the Magic tour, I think, but yeah, he had to reschedule, and then I couldn't make it to the rescheduled show or something, so couldn't make that one. But anyway, I've seen him enough. I've seen him enough to talk about this. Yeah, my well, I'll just talk about it now. The show that really changed me, was that 1985. It was Texas Stadium, where the Dallas Cowboys used to play before Jerry World. Um, yeah, August. I think it was August. I don't know why I remember the month, but August of '85. Massive open football stadium. We don't get concerts in those places too much anymore. But I've just never experienced anything like that. I mean, I was young, so that was part of it too. But it's just that memory's ingrained. I mean, a place that big, and I've seen shows and all, from that large to tiny, intimate, clubs. But just the vibe, the feeling in that stadium, I've just never felt that. I mean, just the excitement, the anticipation, and of course, once they all came out, blast into the opening song is "Born in the USA." It just just shook the place. Oh man, yeah. And I don't know. I just have these kind of images in my head even before they came out, and just kind of sitting in there waiting, waiting for the show to start. Everyone's just such a great mood. You see people doing the wave throughout the stadium. Huge beach balls are being, I don't know. People are running around with massive signs that they had made, on butcher paper or whatever. I remember one that said Rosalita, right? Because he hadn't played that Rosalita on that tour all that much, so people were had signs for their favorite songs and so forth. It was just something, this communal thing. That's kind of the way Bruce shows, at least, have been. So we're gonna do something a little bit different here. I'm gonna be covering everything. I'm gonna be. I just want to kind of go through and talk about obviously the official live releases, but also on Springsteen's website. Go BruceSpringsteen.net, I believe. You go there, and he's got well over 100 shows that you can you buy, but you can download, and then also order as a CD. Doesn't have them on vinyl, but as CDs, and some amazing shows from all years. And I've bought quite a bit of stuff from his website over the time. So talk about some of those. I guess you call those are generally referred to as archival releases, right? Because they didn't come out at the time. But and then I've got flat out bootlegs, So we're gonna kind of be talking all of it. All right. Um, I guess we got to settle one thing right here. Most Springsteen fans, it's either 1975 or 1978, right? I mean, generally considered. I mean, I know there's some fans of the River Tour, but it's the Born to Run tour or the Darkness on the Edge of Town tour, which are often held up as sort of peaks for live Springsteen. I'll just come out and say I'm a '78 guy myself. I think that Darkness on the Edge of Town tour was, just from everything I've heard and listened to from all the different eras, I mean, nothing is that strong to me. I mean, it's just, wow, that '78 tour, just amazing. I will, through the course as I'm going through this stuff, I will tell you, in my view, out of everything I've heard, what I think is the greatest single Springsteen show, at least that I've ever heard. And I do have an opinion on that. So we'll get to that. I do need to make a quick apology. If you are, if you're one of those people that are here for your pure 100% vinyl, I'm going to have more CDs than vinyl here. I mean, I'm sorry. It's just some of the bootlegs I've got are on disc. The stuff I've ordered from his website, you can only get them on CD. He doesn't have them available on vinyl. I do have some vinyl, even bootleg vinyl. So whenever I've got the vinyl, I'll show it. But I wanted to get into this stuff, and I didn't want to let format, get in the way of doing that. So sorry about that. All right, let's get into it. Well, when you're talking live Springsteen, you of course always have to start with this, don't you? Right? 5 records, 5 LPs, 5 album set, live 1975 to 85. This came out in 86. I remember when this came out. There was incredible anticipation because he had not released any live material officially up to this point. And so in part, this was sort of like in response to all, the thriving bootleg market out there, for his material. He just put out this behemoth box set. And there was much anticipation. And I think in general, it delivers. Like I said, or like the title suggests, it's got tracks sort of picked all the way from 75 to 85. So, Born to Run tour up through the Born in the USA tour. And I remember when this came out, there were some, at the time, what I thought were kind of snooty reviewers who were saying, well, it's just not enough. I mean, it's awesome, but what about this and what about this? I was like pointing out all the stuff he left off. And I remember thinking at the time, I'm like, come on, man, he just gave you 5 records, back off. But since then, as I, have collected live Springsteen, now I agree with those critics. There are some essential things. I mean, most glaringly, any true Springsteen fan who collects the live stuff knows the 1978 tour version of "Prove It All Night." The piano intro. Springsteen even refers to those people as like, when I'm one of them, it's like, oh, you're one of those piano intro guys, 78 piano intro guys. So the 78 piano intro guy refers to people who are huge fans of that extended version of "Prove It All Night" that he did on that tour. Iconic Springsteen live rendition. It's not on here. You got 5 records, dude. You don't put "Prove It All Night" on anyway. So, yeah. But am I grateful this is here? Yeah, yeah, and it's awesome. It's awesome. But most of you guys probably know about that if you're a Springsteen fan. So let's get into this other live stuff. So I'm going to start around 1973, where I have, and I've seen this on vinyl. Actually, I saw it recently on vinyl, but it doesn't sound great, so I'm fine with it on CD. This is referred to as Bound for Glory, right? The rare 1973 broadcasts. And these were, some of these were like in studio when he was, being interviewed by, radio disc jockey. And some of these also are taken from a live broadcast, which I'll show you a full disc from in a second. It's all right. The sound quality, honestly, isn't amazing on here, but it's got some real important rarities. It's got Thunderstruck. ACDC? No. Thundercrack. Sorry. Thundercrack on there, which is, again, amongst fans, kind of a legendary song that he never really put out on a studio album. Although if you have that Tracks box set of rarities that he put out, he does have a studio version of Thundercrack on there, which is excellent, by the way. Santa Ana's on here, which is another rarity. Yeah. So, Song for Orphans, um, Bishop Danced. Yeah. So there's some rarities on here. It's just the sound quality's not fantastic. So let's see. Okay, let's move into 1975. So we're going to kind of do this 75 versus 78 thing. So what do I have from 75? I guess first let's go with the official release, right? He did, when did he put this out? 2005 when he put this out. But he did thankfully put out this quite legendary show. Officially he put it out in 2005, but it was Hammersmith Odeon, London, 1975. Okay. This actually was his very first show in Europe. First overseas show was on that, was this. And there's a lot of stories, a lot of stories around this show. He was real nervous. For a long time, for many years after, Springsteen kind of had a negative view of this show, not because of the show, which the evidence is here that it was fantastic, but because of all the hype and stuff around the show. He had the record label, Columbia, and the promoters had, there were posters plastered all over London, that, you know, what is it? Britain is finally ready for Bruce Springsteen, or some ridiculous hyperbole, whatever. And Bruce was, kind of embarrassed by all that and didn't like all the hype. But obviously, he has revisited the music from the show and thought enough about it to put it out officially. This is a four, yeah, it's a 4-record set to cover the entire show. It's awesome. So, other 75 stuff I have now. This is a straight up bootleg. There's many of these going around, but this is a broadcast from. He did a legendary stint of shows at the Bottom Line in New York, August of '75, and so this is one of those complete shows. It was really those Bottom Line shows were some of the shows that really kind of broke him through. And this takes up 3 CDs worth, and yeah, it's just awesome. Real good sound on it because it's taken from a radio broadcast, so it's got real good sound. It's kind of, I'm just trying to read the track list. It's a pretty standard. If you hear a lot of his 75 shows, pretty close to the track listing from his 75 shows. I'll show you another one here. I have this one I downloaded from his website. So, I just downloaded it and then burned it onto CDs because I have to have things in physical form because I'm just that way. So, yeah, I burned these CDs from the download from his website. And this is Upper Darby. And Upper Darby 75, also a pretty legendary show. I'm trying to remember, I think it was this one where, at least for the first set, or maybe it was the second set, Miami Steve Van Zandt, like he had the flu or he wasn't feeling well that night, so he actually wasn't didn't play like half the show, and so Bruce took on guitar duties alone. Anyway, so it's a good show. But my let's see, my favorite show that I have from '75 is this one, and this is a bootleg live at the Main Point. Okay, uh, I don't know how to say this. Was it? Oh, there it is. Uh, Bryn Mawr. I don't know. I'm not from the East Coast, so I don't know. Pennsylvania. Anyway, the Main Point. This is awesome, and this is actually widely available. There's a ton of bootlegs of this out there, so I would suggest you get this. This was early, yeah, February 5th of '75, and so this was early '75. I need to check the date. This might have been before Born to Run was released. I know Born to Run comes out in '75. Don't remember the month though. But it's super early, basically where people aren't that familiar with the Born to Run album. And so what's really interesting, yeah, in fact, I'm almost positive this came out before the Born to Run was released. An editor can tell us the date that Born to Run was officially released, the album. Um, there's several super special things about this show. One, I believe, if I remember reading right, the rendition of Born to Run and the rendition of Thunder Road both may be the very first or amongst the very first times he ever played those songs in front of an audience. And two, this was a radio broadcast to kind of promote, I guess, the upcoming album. And so it's a real small audience. So it's this real kind of club atmosphere, right when he was about to break out of the clubs, you know? Um, so it's kind of a great moment, in that career. Uh, so early. So one of the things that's kind of fun about that, right, is when he goes into Born to Run and goes into Thunder Road. Normally you're used to the crowds going nuts on the first notes of those songs because they're classics. Well, they weren't classics yet. They're like unknown. They're new songs, and so it's funny. He goes into Thunder Road, goes into Born to Run, and the crowd's pretty subdued. It's like these just hey some new tunes. It's pretty awesome. Honestly, the main thing that gets me on this is the opening song is Bruce solo piano rendition of "Incident on 57th Street," from his second album. It's one of my favorite Springsteen songs, and it's just gorgeous. I mean, again, if you've heard live Springsteen, sometimes he'll take some of his classics or full band songs from albums and kind of make them acoustic or solo piano, and they're just really gorgeous renditions. And this is one. And there's a magic moment on here, and again, I've read about it. Like, this is a small club, and it was being recorded in this club, and you know the the when he's finishing up "Incident on 57th Street," there's a line in the song, where he's singing about the character in the song being wheeled out, he's injured or whatever, and then you hear this siren, and from what I've read, that was like a real siren, like going by the club, and it was picked up, on the mics or whatever. It's like just at the right moment at the end of the song, and it's just like perfect. Anyway, it's kind of this magical moment. Yeah, so if you're gonna get 75, to me, this is the best one. All right, let's go to 78. And again, let's talk about official release first. This he just released last year, right here. This is the legendary 1979 No Nukes concerts. So this is Springsteen's set at the No Nukes concert. Excuse me. Ah. Notice, Kyle, I paused there before I sneezed. You could edit out the sneeze. Hang on. Another one coming. Or screw it, leave it in. I don't care. All right. Anyway, so legendary No Nuke shows. So Springsteen did a set at the No Nukes concert, and I should have. Let me pull it out right here. I have it here. Oh, there it is. Should have pulled this out ahead of time. I have this. This is the it's like three record set of the No Nukes concert. So it was this Muse concert for a non-nuclear future, 1979. So this was, it's a series of shows with a bunch of big names to raise awareness and money for anti-nuclear weapons thing. You had Doobie Brothers, Jackson Brown, Crosby, Stills and Nash, James Taylor, Carly Simon, Bonnie Raitt, Tom Petty, Nicolette Larson, Poco, Shaka Khan, Ry Cooder. Anyway, some big names at this show, and of course Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band were there, and they were kind of the headliner. But since they had a slot at what's essentially kind of a festival, I guess, um, they didn't have the full time that the usual 3 hours plus that they usually had. So I think that's kind of a good thing because they had to condense the set a little bit. This is only two records, double album, which is pretty short for live Springsteen. you know, Beautiful package, and yeah, it actually kind of comes with oh yeah, real nice, large. I should put this up. Big poster. Yeah, that's pretty cool. It actually came out with like some, if I remember, somewhere in here. It's like a booklet. It's like a reproduction of a ticket to the show. It's kind of fun. It's kind of a cool package. Anyway, my point is two records. So he really had to kind of condense his great show into like maybe a more digestible amount for people who are more just kind of Springsteen curious, right? And so this might be a good thing to get. Bruce at his peak, 78, tour, but shorter. Now it opens with "Prove It All Night," but it's not the piano intro "Prove It All Night." So just be aware of that. But it's still pretty awesome. Yeah, I mean, "Prove It All Night," "Badlands," "Promised Land," "River," "Thunder Road," "Jungle Land," "Rosalita," "Born to Run." Those are some of the peaks, the highlights here. Great, really great. But I got a lot more 78. I do have the Cleveland Agora set. This is it was in Cleveland, the Agora. This is another one I downloaded from his website. It's very good. Maybe this is the one. It's either this or that other one where I told you the story about Steve Van Zandt being sick for a set. I think it might be this one. I don't. It doesn't matter. It's either this or that other one I told you about. But this is often. You Google like best Springsteen shows ever. You get all these lists online. I often see this in like top 10 Springsteen shows ever. It's great, but there's some 78 shows that I actually prefer. This one is awesome. This is a bootleg, widely available because it was also a radio broadcast. Was at the Roxy, 78. There's I don't know if you can see all the. I don't know if that's focusing in on the track listing. You can read that or not, but a very typical 78 set list, and it's awesome. It's awesome. I remember reading about this one. There are a lot of big celebs in the this little info card about it. Big celebrities in the audience at this one, so he was kind of proving himself out on the West Coast. Well, he'd already proved himself, really. But to me, the great now. Okay, I don't have a copy of total blank here. What is it? Oh yeah, the Capitol Theater. Capitol Theater, which is often considered his greatest show. It's available for download on his website. I just don't have it yet, although I've listened to it a lot. That's awesome. But to me, there is an even greater show. And I'll just say this is, in my view, the greatest Springsteen concert I've ever heard. And I have it on vinyl as a bootleg and on CD as a bootleg. For some reason, he doesn't have this one available for download on his website, even though it's like legendary. But I'm talking about Winterland 78. December of '78, Winterland. This is a fantastic vinyl bootleg that I have of that show. There's 3 records in there. This was also a radio broadcast, like a lot of these were, so the sound's really good. This, I have just, and I also have got a CD version too, a bootleg that I bought, just so I have it on disc as well. But we'll stick with the vinyl here. This, if you want to me, the essence of just power of Springsteen and his band in their prime. I've never heard them as hungry, as just all out, just letting it all out there, man. I mean, this is just amazing. I mean, just it does have the piano intro version of "Prove It All Night," and it's this version that I've never heard. If I had to pick a live song of his that is like the ultimate live track, it's that. It's "Prove It All Night" from Winterland '78. But man, Streets of Fire. Oh, it's just. I mean, as great as that is on the album "Darkness on the Edge of Town," it's just taken up several notches. Just this distorted. It's just powerful stuff. But this whole thing never lets up. Killer set list. I mean, just look how it opens. You know, Badlands, Streets of Fire, Spirit in the Night, Darkness on the Edge of Town. Just so good. And you got Prove It All Night and Racing in the Street back to back. Just 2 powerful songs. Both of them around 10 minutes long. If you look at the piano intro, so you got about 20-minute span there of Prove It All Night and Racing in the Street. Jungle Land's here. You know, he does his Santa Claus is Coming to Town because it's December, so that's fun. Yeah, just Rosalita, Backstreets. Oh, The Fever, which is another kind of earlier Springsteen song that a lot of fans love that never made it onto an album. There's a great version of that on here. And there's this, he does previews Point Blank, you know, which hadn't come out yet. It's going to be on the river. And then he's got this 3-song stretch here of Fire, Candy's Room, and Because of the Night. Man, this whole thing is so powerful. This, in my view, friends, the greatest Springsteen show ever. All right, let's move out of '78. So we're gonna go a little faster here because I don't want to keep you too long. But you go into the river, you know, 1980, 81 shows. I just have one of those. I kind of did some research and like this was seen as like a definitive one, so I downloaded this one off of his website too. This is Uniondale 1980. It's on 3 CDs, but it packs these. This is almost 4-hour show. This one I think held the record for his longest show ever until sometime in the 2000s when he actually beat it. But for decades, the Uniondale. This is New Year's Eve, and so it's real festive. And the set list is incredibly long. You know, you're going 4 hours here. But I don't know. Yeah, I wanted kind of a definitive, like just one show from the River Tour, and I heard this was the one, so that's the one I got, and it's doesn't disappoint, obviously. All right, Born in the USA, 84, 85. Let me show you what I got here. I have downloaded. Well, one, I found this bootleg a long time ago, King of the Road. This sucks. I mean, it's because the sound quality is horrendous, and you find a lot of these things all over the place. Sounds like it was recorded on someone's little tape recorder stuck in their jacket or something. It's like all muffled, and it's a shame because he does a beautiful version of "Drift Away," you know, the Dobie Gray song, which I love, but it's hardly listenable. But don't worry about that one. I downloaded one from his website, and then I just ordered the other one on CD from his website. So I actually do have the artwork for that one. The one I ordered from his website is this one, Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum, September 27, 1985. So this was September of '85. I'm positive I saw that show in Dallas. I saw was August of '85. So this is, I think this. And looking at the set list, you know, again, it's 3 CDs, you know, full of songs. Look at that. It's very close to what I witnessed in Dallas. I mean, the set list is probably about the same. So it's kind of cool for me, you know. Excuse me. All of a sudden, I'm getting like sneezing, which isn't good when you're recording a video. Hopefully, editor can cut that out too. Um, yeah. So it's awesome. Um, Born in the USA, Out in the Street. I remember that was such a party when he played that in that stadium. Trapped. God, that's such a great cover. But yeah, awesome. And then the other one I downloaded is East Rutherford from '84. So this is '85. This is '84. This is kind of cool. You can see how the set lists kind of evolved over that massive tour. If you compare the two. Um, he hadn't had a chance to tour for Nebraska, and so it was kind of cool on these Born in the USA shows. He sort of did these, little mini Nebraska sets in there, so it's kind of cool too. But you do get great, full band versions of Atlantic City, which are so good. All right, real quick here. Tunnel of Love tour, which I'm a big fan of. I did download LA 1988. So his LA show from his website, and his set list didn't change all that much on the Tunnel of Love tour. So I think one is enough here. Great. So yeah, he had a full horn section with him. Really, really great shows. He did put out this EP, also Chimes of Freedom. It's four live 4-song EP from that tour as well. Now this is essential to me for one of my all-time favorite Springsteen tracks. He does a solo acoustic version of Born to Run, which I don't know why, but I remember when I saw him do it, when he came through Houston and I went to that show on the same tour. God, it's just one of those moments. Really emotional for me. I don't know why. It's solo acoustic. He plays a little harmonica on there, but he slows it way down, and it's like this real wistful version of Born to Run. And I mean, do you ever replace the original? No, but it's its own thing, and it's just gorgeous to me. Anyway, I'm glad to have it on here. It's pretty cool. All right, 1990. I downloaded these off of his website. These are the LA solo acoustic shows. I think at the Christic Foundation, he did a couple of solo acoustic sets where he kind of dug real deep in his catalog. Kind of some nice stuff there. Then you get to Lucky Town Human Touch Tour. I have this bootleg called The Boss Is Back, and this one, this was early on the tour. He did some small club dates. Remember that was when he got rid of the E Street Band for a while and had kind of brought in these session guys to tour with him. Wasn't really the same. Didn't have the same kind of connection with those musicians. They're good musicians, but Lucky Town and Human Touch are kind of overproduced, and it's nice. This is kind of nice. This was a radio broadcast, and so this is nice. You get a much kind of rawer versions of those songs from '92, which I think are better in this way. I got another bootleg live from London from that tour. Sound quality on this is really bad, but this one actually sounds pretty good. He did put out officially, of course it's the '90s, so he got to do his MTV Unplugged, right? But he does MTV Plugged, where he comes out and does one acoustic song, and he brings out the band and just does a rock show. So it's a Bruce Springsteen in concert, MTV, and he's got scratched out, so it's MTV Plugged. It's all right. It's mostly Human Touch, Lucky Town stuff. Now there's two things to make this worthwhile. The electric version of Atlantic City is on here, which is great. And then he finally releases a version of his song Light of Day, which is a killer rocker, which he had actually given, I think it's Joan Jett. Joan Jett had done that in that movie with Michael J. Fox. Was that the name of the movie? I don't remember. But it was Springsteen wrote it. It's nice to get his own version of it here. The only downer to it, though, is he kind of stops in the middle and does this sort of extended, getting the crowd riled up and, I would like kind of a tight, just awesome version of that song from him without all the crowd participation stuff. All right, let's kind of wrap it up here real quick. Um, the Ghost of Tom Joad tour, which was pretty special. That was a kind of smaller theaters. I saw it at Jones Hall in Houston, where I saw it, mid '90s. I do have a Berlin '96, so this is, I guess, a broadcast from Berlin on that same tour. And does a lot of songs from that album, but he does some pretty raw, cool acoustic versions, like of "Darkness on the Edge of Town," "Born in the USA," "Streets of Philadelphia." Most of the rest of this stuff is stuff on that album, though. All right, the rest is mostly actually official releases. You've got live in New York City, which was I saw this tour. This was that kind of triumphant, return of the E Street Band. Didn't have an album he was promoting at that point. Just playing classics. But it was awesome. It was awesome. Some of his sort of getting the crowd. His kind of rock and roll preacher bit. I don't know, it kind of works when you're there, but comes across a little hokey if you're just listening to it or watching it. Also put this out on DVD. But still pretty awesome versions of these songs. Then I've got 2007 live in Dublin. So the Seeger Sessions band I talked about in the rankings. Um, he went on tour with them, and I think it was much more effective live. I like this better than the Seeger Sessions album. The songs kind of come alive a little bit more here, but as a bonus, he gives kind of that sort of acoustic, I don't know, Irish whatever um, treatment, Mumford and Sons treatment to some of his own songs, and that's the real treat on here. Atlantic City, Further On Up the Road, If I Should Fall Behind, Highway Patrolman, How Can a Poor Man Stand Such Times and Live, which is I think the highlight on here. Long Time Coming, Open All Night, Growing Up, Blinded by the Light. So a great handful of his originals given this kind of unique treatment, which is why this is worthwhile. What's this? Oh, Giant Stadium 2009. It's a bootleg. I think I ordered it. Oh, yeah, I got this because he does the Born in the USA album all the way through, and I was curious. It's not that great. What else? This Springsteen on Broadway. This, of course, is a record of his. I'd love to get this on vinyl, but every time I see it on vinyl, it's like $80 or something. I'm not going to pay that. Anyway, this is great. Yeah, I wasn't all that excited when I heard about this. It's like, he's kind of telling stories in between the songs, and it's kind of an acoustic show, basically. But I got to tell you, this is incredibly engaging. Great stories, great acoustic renditions of these songs. I mean, the Dancing in the Dark and the Rising, those two on acoustic are really awesome. Well done. He does a touching tribute to Clarence Clemens. I think he had died fairly close to this. And in sort of the intro to 10th Avenue Freeze Out, he tells great stories about Clarence Clemens. Anyway, this is definitely worthwhile. I mean, the guy is a storyteller, and he's telling stories here. All right, finally, last thing. I talked about how much I really, really liked Western Stars in the ranking video. So he did a film, which is basically a live, kind of intimate live performance of that album. And so this is Bruce Springsteen, Western Stars songs from the film. And so where he basically just does a live version of the Western Stars album. And so if you're a fan of that album, this is a great companion piece to get. He sticks pretty close to the to how he plays them on the original album. It kind of stretches out a little bit. So if you're really familiar and like that album, you'll notice some of the differences. One of the nice things at the very end, he tags on a cover of a Rhinestone Cowboy, which is kind of the sound he was going for, right? So that's kind of cool. That's fun. But there you go. All right, guys. Really appreciate you guys sticking with me going through Springsteen's live overview. You know, I guess we're kind of Springsteened out, right? So we'll move on to other things. Well, I really appreciate it. Please do subscribe if you enjoy the content. Like the videos and hit the bell for notifications, and we'll see you next time.